Boker Tov. Today's Daf Yomi is Kesubos Daf Ayin Aleph, Kesubos 71. We're going to start in the very top of Ayin Aleph, Amud Aleph. And the Daf Yomi tells us that Rabbi Huda says, B'Yisrael Chodesh Echad. And if a person had taken a vow that it said in our Mishnah that a woman cannot have, that a wife cannot have benefit from her husband, the Tanakama, the first anonymous position of the Mishnah is that if the vow is longer than 30 days, he needs to divorce her right away. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda said if it's longer than a month, he has to divorce her right away. But if she's married to a Kohen, we give him an extra month with the vow, because with a Kohen, a marriage is irreversible. So the Gemara says, Hainu Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda is essentially the same as the Tanakama. Tanakama says 30 days, Rabbi Yehuda says a month. What's the difference? Amar Abaye Kohenes Aso Ashminan. It's teaching us about a Kohenes. What's the concept of a Kohenes? The Kohenes, meaning to say that if the woman is married to a Kohen, then we give an extra month for the vow. So you can make a vow for up to 2 months before having to have to divorce her. Rava says, Chodesh Moed, Chodesh Chaser, no, that the Tanakhama says it's 30 days, that's a full month, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says it's 29 days, a shortened month. So that's a distinction between them. Amar Rav, Rav says, when do we say that he has 30 days before he has to divorce her? That's if he specifies 30 days of a bestam. If he just made the vow that she not have benefit from me without specifying the 30 days, Yotzi alter, he has to divorce her immediately, v'yiting suva, and he has to pay her the full suva. That's if he doesn't specify. Whereas Shmuel says, afilu bestam will yotzi, even if he makes the vow anonymously without specifying afilu bestam, even if he makes the vow anonymously, well, Yotzi doesn't have to divorce her. He still has 30 days. Shema yimtza Pesach anidro. Maybe in the end he'll find a Pesach for his vow. Maybe in the end he'll find a way to annul his vow. So the Gemara says, why do we have to have this dispute between Rav and Shmuel about whether, in a case where a wife can't have benefit from her husband? We essentially had the same exact argument back on Daf Samach Aleph to Tanan. We weren't a Madiris Ishta Mitash Meshamita there, where a person says his wife cannot have tashmish, cannot have marital relations with him. Beis Shammai says shtei shabbatos. Beis Shammai says if he only has up to 2 weeks before having to divorce her. Beis Hillel says he can make the vow even for Shabbos Achas, even only 1 week, that's enough, and he has to divorce her. Namar Rav Machokas ben Mefarish. Rav says the dispute between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is only by a case of Mefarish, by a case where he says 2 weeks or 1 week. But if he just makes a vow that you can't have marital relations with me, Yotzi alter meeting suba. Rav says in the case of Stam, without specification, he has to divorce her immediately with a ksuba. Shmuel says afilu b'stam, even if it's just an anonymous, just a without specification vow. Nami lo Yotzi. He also doesn't have to divorce her. Shema yimtza Pesach anidro. Maybe he'll find a way out. You always give him either 1 week or 2 weeks, or in our case, 30 days. So why do we need to have the same dispute between Rav and Shmuel about Stam and Mefarish in both places, both in our case about benefit and also by marital relations? And Gemara says we need both cases. If we just had this teaching by marital relations, I would say, but he come Rav there. Rav says that if you just make the vow Stam, you have to divorce her immediately, because you can't give her marital relations to a third party. By this case, by our case over here, what are we referring to over here? We're referring to a case of benefit where it's supporting her. You could support her through a third party. So maybe here in our case, we'll give her, maybe Rav will give her the extra time. Maybe he'll agree to Shmuel. If we're only in the case by support, maybe Shmuel. Maybe that's the case where Shmuel gives 30 days. Because you could always support her through a parnes. But in the case over there, in the case of the marital relations, maybe he'll admit to Rav that you can't support, since you can't do it through a third party. So therefore, he'll have to divorce her right away. So therefore, we need to dispute in both cases. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hamadiris Ishto Shlo Titom Echa Mikol Peros. We learned in our Mishnah that after we have the first dispute about where he says his wife can't have benefit from him, where the Tanakhama says 30 days, and Rabbi Yehuda says a chodesh, and for a Kohen it's an extra month. We now have the next case in the Mishnah where if his wife, he takes a vow against his wife that she can't eat any one of the fruits. The Tosfos explains it can't eat a specific fruit. Yotiv eating ksuba. Then he has to divorce her and give her a ksuba that day, basically. So Bishlam Rav, it makes sense according to Rav that why do we switch from a time of 30 days to immediate kam bistam, kam mefarish? One is by a case where he specifies 30 days, and Rav will give you 30 days. But if you don't specify if it's stam, then you have to divorce her that same day. Now, Shmuel Kasha, according to Shmuel, who says that even if you make a vow that's stam, you still have 30 days. Then what's the distinction between the case of the fruits and the case of the benefit of the support? Gemara says, so Gemara says, Shmuel Kasha. Gemara says, no. What's our case here? The case here, in this case of the fruit, where she makes a vow against the fruit, is kigon shenadrahi b'kayim what ihu, is where she made the vow and he upheld the vow. She made a vow, I'm not going to eat any of, I'm not going to benefit from, I'm not going to eat any fruit. She's not going to eat any fruit. And he did not annul the vow. He upheld the vow, which means he completed the vow. So therefore, it must be that it's like his vow, and so therefore he has to divorce her and give her a ksuba. But since she made the vow, then therefore he's not going to go to get the vow annulled. Rashi says, "Shenadrahi umayesho od. Now in this circumstance, there's no reason to wait anymore because inichla v'didal mishkol ksuvasa umeipak. Because if it's good for her to get her ksuba and to go out, she's not going to go and try and annul a vow. So since she made the vow, but now she's getting her ksuva because he upheld the vow, she's not going to go to annul this vow. But where he made the vow, like for example, he says she can't have any benefit from me. Now we have to see that maybe he's going to want to annul his vow. So the Gemara says, okay, so we see that where she makes the vow and he upholds it, it's considered like his termination of the marriage, and therefore he has to pay her the ksuva. If she was terminating it, she wouldn't have to pay her. So we're seeing here, so it must be that the anonymous author of our Mishnah, who says that he has to pay her the ksuva, which we assume at this point is Rabbi Meir, says that where she makes a vow and he upholds it, it's his fault, which is the Gemara's expression is, who knows saying etzba bein shinah? He's like sticking a finger between her mouth, and if she bites it, it's not his fault. It's not her fault. So the Gemara says, with the Saba Rabbi Meir, who knows saying etzba bein shinah? So does Rabbi Meir really, and Rabbi Meir's other position, that he's sticking his finger between her teeth. So Zakta Gemara, or Frekta Gemara, the Gemara asks, with Saba Rabbi Meir, who knows saying etzba bein shinah? Does Rabbi Meir really say, in these circumstances, he's sticking his finger between her teeth? Vatanya. Then we learn in the Brayso, Isha shenadra ben Nazir. What about a woman who makes a vow that she's going to be a Naz, right? The Shama vow, and her husband hears this vow. And he doesn't annul the vow. So under those circumstances where the husband hears the vow and he doesn't annul it, Rabbi Yehuda says, he nuts Rabbein Hashina. So Rabbi Yehuda and Rameir say she is the one who's at fault. She's sticking her own finger between her teeth. So we see in essentially the same case, Rameir takes the opposite position and says it's her fault. And if the husband wants to, he can annul it. He says, I don't want a woman who's going around making vows. Gemara later on is going to tell us that such a woman it brings curses upon the family. So it's a tremendous sin. So therefore, takes Ishla b'ksuva. So we see in this case, Rabbi Meir says she goes out without a ksuva, whereas Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Eliezer say, who knows saying that's for ben Shinei? Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Eliezer say, no, it's his fault. And lefikach if the husband wants to annul the vow, he can. And if he says, listen, I don't want such a woman as my wife, Yotzi v'ting suba. So we see from here that Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda say that it's her fault. So therefore, Meir and our Mishnah should say it's her fault. Whereas Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Eliezer say it's his fault. So they're consistent with the Tanakh of our Mishnah. So the Gemara says Epoch. Okay, reverse it. Reverse the way we have the opinions listed in the Brayso. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda are the ones who say, who knows? Saying Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda in the Brayso must be the one saying it's his fault. And Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Eliezer, they must be the ones who say it's Omram Hinasna. They must be the ones saying it's her fault. The Gemara says, wait, you can't say that Rabbi Yossi says it's Hino sen it's Etzma ben Shinah. You can't say that Rabbi Yossi is the one who's saying that it's that it's her fault, that she's hinasna, that she's the one who put her finger between her mouth. For some Rabbi Yossi, hinasna, but we have a different case where Rabbi Yossi says it's hunosin, that it's his fault. How so? But now Rabbi Yossi Omer, the third case of our Mishnah, where it says in our Mishnah, if a woman takes a vow against the case where the case of our Mishnah was that a woman says, if a man makes a vow that is shalot iskashi, that a woman can't use adornments in any circumstances. So Rabbi Yossi says that if she was a poor girl, that he has to divorce her if he didn't give a specific time. Now, so therefore we see from here that since that's the same circumstance, that's a case that she makes the vow and he upholds the vow, and we still say that he has to give her. We say in those circumstances that he has to give her a full ksuba. So we see that Rabbi Yossi is also the one who says who knows saying. So therefore, Rabbi Yossi in our brayso can't be the one who says it's her fault. So therefore, Gemara says. So therefore, must be that Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi are the ones who say it's who knows, saying it's his fault. The Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Lazar are and whereas Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Lazar are the ones who say it's her fault. Gemara says no, we also can't say that. The Sabbath Rabbi Yehuda Hinasana is Rabbi Yehuda really saying that it's her fault? Do you really want to say that Rabbi Yehuda says it's her fault? Because we have a case where Rabbi Yehuda also says it's his fault. Vatanan Rabbi Yehuda Omer B'Yisrael Yom Echad Yikayim. We say specifically that in our Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda said that if it's a regular Jew, he can remain married to her for one day if she takes a vow against the fruit. But after one day, he has to divorce her and give her the ksuba. So we see that Rabbi Yehuda says it's his fault and not her fault. So therefore, again, we don't have all Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yehuda all say it's his fault and not her fault. So who is the author of the brayso who says it's her fault? So the Gemara says, well, it must be Ema, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Omer Huno saying it must be that all three of them, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, say it's his fault. Rabbi Lezer, Omer Hina's son. Rabbi Lezer says it's her fault. But the Gemara says, but we don't necessarily like that. We don't really want to say that it's 3 against 1. Really, we prefer to say it's 2 against 2. First of all, I'm just thinking about this. I didn't check the Rishon to see if they explain like this. I'm saying 2 things. First of all, the Bryce explained it as 2 versus 2. So for us to amend it to 3 versus 1, it's not logical that people make a mistake of memory in that way. And also the other reason is because if it's 2 against 2, we're going to list the opinions. But if it's 3 against 1, 3 is already a majority. That's the Rabbanan. They would have just listed it anonymously. They wouldn't have just said all 3 opinions. They would have just said the Chachamim say this. So in the Brisa. So therefore we have to say as follows. Or alternatively, Remei Rabbi Lezer Omer Hinasana, and Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Omer Hunosin. Okay, we could say that Rabbi Meir is also saying that it's her fault. Our Mishnah, the anonymous Mishnah, says it's his fault, but say that that's not Rabbi Meir. This our anonymous Mishnah. It doesn't have to be like Rabbi Meir. We have a general rule that the anonymous Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, but it's not hard and fast. V'astama to look Rabbi Meir. Gemara says, wait. So Gemara says, "V'savar Rabbi Yossi be'aniyos shalona tan kitzva." So the Gemara now asks a general question on Rabbi Yossi. So we had understood that what's our Mishnah referring to? We had understood our Mishnah. It's referring to a case of where she makes the vow and he upholds it. And Rabbi Yossi saying under those circumstances that if she's poor and there's no specific amount of time, that he had to annul the vow. He had to annul the vow from the fact he should have annulled the vow from the fact he upheld the vow. He divorces her and he gives her a ksuba. So, and he says by a poor person, it's if there's no specific time, and by a wealthy person, he has up to 30 days. But the basis of this is that this is grounds for divorce if she makes a vow that she's not going to have adornments. So the Gemara says, "V'savar Rabbi Yossi b'niyah shalom tankit." So we see from here, Baal Matzi Mefer, that if she makes a vow that she's not going to use adornments, the husband really should be annulling that vow, or he can annul the vow. But why? We ask a general question. We say in the we learned in the Mishnah in the Dharm. What do we learn in the Mishnah in Dharm? It would Varm Shabal Mefer. These are the things that the husband is able to annul. A husband can't annul any vow. He can only annul those vows, Varm Sheyesh Ben Inoi Nefesh. Those things that are considered afflictions of the soul. One of them is Im Erchatz, Im Lo Erchatz. So that, let's say, these are things that are going to bother her and him if he doesn't do it. One, if she says, I'm not going to bathe. If I'm not going to use adornments. And Amar Rabbi Yossi there said on that mission in Dharm, that's not considered to be a vow afflicting the soul. So he shouldn't have been able to annul this vow to begin with, according to Rabbi Yossi. Bracket that the Gemara finishes the source. These are, says Rabbi Yossi, these are the things that are considered inoy nefesh that the husband can annul vow. Shlochol basar. Let's say she says, I'm not going to eat meat. Shalosh yayin. I'm not going to drink wine. Shalosh kashet. The big dates you've voted. Or I'm not going to wear colored garments. She says she means she's not going to dress nicely. It's disgraceful that she doesn't wear colored garments. Anyway, we're on the top of 71b. So we see that the husband, according to Rabbi Yossi, cannot annul a vow about adornment. So why in our mission do we assume he can annul it? So the Gemara says, on the top of 71b, when we say a vow about adornments, we don't really mean adornments. We mean there's something to do. Rashi says it's a cream that she puts upon her to remove her genitalia hair. So that's something that affects them both, and presumably he would have the right to annul such a vow. So the Gemara says, it makes sense according to the position that says if it has to do with this type of thing about their sexual life, the husband has the ability to annul it. But not everybody says that. What would we say according to the Shita? According to the Shita, it says that he can't annul it. What would we say? Because we learned those things that are between him and her. Rav Huna Amar Rav Huna says the husband can annul such a vow. But Rav Ada bar Abba says that the husband cannot annul such a vow. And even if she's like this without putting the cream on, the husband knows how to navigate because we never saw a fox die in his own foxhole. So the husband knows his wife's body, and he would be able to live like that. So must be, what are we talking about? Why is Rabbi Yossi say over here that he can annul her adornments? Because the adornments vow was made conditional upon marital relations. Because Hachamay Askinan can go into Talinu Kishutea B'Tashra Shamita, because she connected her adornments to marital relations. She said the Amra. She said, if I put the adornments on me, then I won't be able to have marital relations with you. So if she says, I'm not allowed to have any benefit from you, I'm not allowed to have marital relations with you, so well, then we force her because she has to be able to, it's part of marriage. So we say, no, that vow is invalid. But if she says, Hanas Tashmi Sheikh Halai, but she says, you're not allowed to have any benefit from our marital intercourse, then Yafer, then he can annul that vow. He must annul it or else it takes effect. Excuse me. Because we don't feed something to a person that's prohibited to him. So the Gemara says, but we have a perfect solution. The marital relations are not necessarily affected. Let her not take the adornments, and then she won't become prohibited. So Gemara said, Rashi explains that this is a question on Rabbi Yossi. Why is this a question on Rabbi Yossi? Since he says the adornments do not count as inoi nefesh, as afflictions, then how is he able to annul the vow? And if you want to say, well, the concern is she connects it to tashmis, let her not put on the adornments, and then she won't become prohibited. So she has the ability not to put it on. And so therefore, how can her husband annul her vow? Because from the perspective of the adornments, he can't annul it, because Rabbi Yossi says this is not a neder that's afflicting the inor nefesh. So how is, according to Rabbi Yossi, how can the husband annul the vow? So the Gemara says, Im kain karu aminavelas. So if that's the case, we're going to call her disgusting if she doesn't put on the perfume. And so therefore, then she will become prohibited to him because he won't be able to have the marital relations with her because she will be menuvelis. And so therefore, what's going to happen, the way the commentaries explain it, is that since she'll look disgusting, she's going to mamela, she's going to go and put on these adornments, and then she'll become prohibited. You can't live like that not putting on adornments. And so therefore, since she will end up putting them on and then becoming prohibited, the husband can, initially speaking, annul the vow. So the Gemara says, we'll let her put on the adornments and become prohibited. She should at least have, according to Beis Shammai, she would have at least 2 weeks. And according to Beis Hillel, she would have at least 1 week. We'll read the Rashi. Why does our Mishnah say that he has to divorce her immediately and give her the ksuba? Why does it say in the Mishnah? There's a question on the Tanakh in the Mishnah. Yotzi v'ting ksuba. She should have 2 weeks. This Gashiv to also, I'm reading the Rashi. Why doesn't it go back to the Mishnah we had on Daf Samach Aleph? And there we say Beis Shammai gets 2 weeks and Beis Hillel gets 1 week. So the Gemara says, when do we say that they get that? Honey, when do we say Beis Shammai says you have 2 weeks and Beis Hillel says 1 week if it's a case where you made a vow about marital relations? Hani Mili, ironically, that's only the case where he made the vow. This Savra, she's thinking to herself, Mirsach he lost his temper. But he's going to calm down. But in this case, where she makes the vow, and he was the Nadra'i Bishasak, and she makes the vow and he accepts it, Svara, she's going to think, Mideishtik. Misnahu the son. She's going to think he must hate me. So therefore, I want to vow right away. And so therefore she can't live with him at all because she's going to say he hates me. So now the Gemara said that Rabbi Yossi says no, that if she makes a vow against the dormants, you don't have to divorce right away. That if she's poor, now you have this amount of time by a poor woman, shalonatan kitzvah. It doesn't specify what that means. Yep, up until that time. So how much is that? Kama kitzvah. How much time do we give her? Do we give him before we have to divorce her? So Rabbi Yehuda's name is Shmuel Yud Beis Chodesh. She says 12 months. Rav Bar Chana says, and they Rabbi Yochanan Eser Shanim 10 years. The poor woman could go without adornments. Rav Chisda says the name of Ravimi Regel, a festival. She came in Yisrael Miskashet Esperegel. They used to put the adornments on the festivals. Okay, so it says the Ubashiros, but Rabbi Yosef says by a wealthy woman she gets 30 days. Mashna Lamed Yom. Why by a wealthy woman does she get 30 days? And then you'd have to divorce her. Because a distinguished woman will benefit from the reach, from the smell of her adornments that she put on herself before she took the vow for 30 days. Okay, we're up to the bottom Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, if a woman makes a vow, a man makes a vow that his wife cannot go to her father's home. Now, how can he make a vow for her that she can't go? He must have said, if you go, we're not going to have relations. So, Bisman, Shehu, Ima, if he is Bisman, Shehu, Ima, Ba'ir, in a circumstance where the father is with her in the same city, then Chodesh Echad Yikayim. Then if the vow is for 1 month, he can remain married to her. But Shnayim, but for 2 months, Yotzi Tink Suba. You'd have to divorce her right away and give her ksuba. But if the father is in a different city, and then Rashi says their daughters used to come home and visit them for the holidays. So if she is in a different city, when he's in a different city, for 1 festival the vow is binding, but for shlosha, but for 3 festivals, yotzi v'yiting suba. For 3 festivals, he has to he has to divorce her right away and give her after 3 festivals, and he has to give her a ksuva. So mother's isha also, if a man makes a vow that his wife can't go to the mourner's house, or based on mishta, or to a wedding, then he has to divorce her and give her a ksuva because he's closing the door before her. The Gemara is going to explain what that means. The Gemara is going to explain that a woman can't live with if she's out of social life, certain basic social needs. Let's say he has another reason. He explains that she's acting inappropriately at these things, and that's why I don't want her to go. That Rashai, then it's permitted. Amalah, let's say it says to her, Almanasha Tomri Poni Masha Martili. I'm going to, you're not going to have benefit on the condition that you say to such and such a person that which you said to me. Meaning to say, he requires her to say certain things. Meaning you're not prohibited to me, but only on this condition. Or almanas, or on the condition that which I said to you, you say to such and such a person. Or on the condition or that you pick up and throw out the trash. We'll see what that means, that you fill up and throw out the trash. The Gemara is going to give several explanations. One is that it's a euphemism. But anyway, we'll see what that means. Yotziv takes ksuba. Then he has to divorce her right away and give her a ksuba. Because these things are, the Gemara is going to explain, these things are considered to be very disrespectful. So the Gemara says, Hagufa kasha, this itself is an internal contradiction. You said, if he makes a vow, she can't go to her father for one festival, Yikayim. He's allowed to remain married to her. Hashnayim, but if it will be 2 vows, eating ksuba, 2 vows, he has to go out and give her a ksuba. Ema seifa, what about the next clause, shlosha, which says if he makes this vow for 3 festivals, eating ksuba, then he has to divorce her. Hashnayim, but if it's for 2 vows, 2 festivals, Yikayim is allowed to remain with her. So Amar Abaye, seifa asal kohanis. So he says no. The Abai says the last clause where he says for 3 festivals he has to divorce her, but that's referring to Kohenes because she gets 2 festivals to be with him. Then maybe he'll change his mind. Rabbi Yehudi, whereas Rabbi Bar, who says that the woman who's married to Kohen gets an extra month, and in this case she gets an extra festival. Whereas Rabbi says, it depends what type of woman it is. If it's a woman who's always running to her father's house, then if he makes the vow again for 2 festivals, then he has to divorce her. But if she's not redufa, she's not always running there, then he can remain married to her even if he makes the vow for 2 festivals. Gemara says, since we're talking about a redufa, it says, I appeared in his eyes like somebody who was seeking peace. And the next verse states, and I'm Rabbi Yochanan Kakawa Shenimsas Shlema Bebeis Lameha, or Redufa Lelecho Agit Shivcha Bebeis Avia. So Rabbi Yochanan says it's like a bride when she's in her father-in-law's home, when she's with her husband and his parents, she's considered to be so much at peace that she runs to tell her praises to her father's home. And now we cite another verse. Then on that day, God says, you'll be called my husband, really complete husband. Lashon Rashi says of Ishus and Nision. You'll no longer called my master. You'll be completely married. Bali is a reference to betrothed, but Ishi will become fully married on that, basically the day of the redemption. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, we're happy to address them. Otherwise, we'll stop here at this time.